What is up, Podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony. I am joined by Anthony. I am joined by Nate. And we're doing another OG album deep dive today. But, boys, it's been a little bit since we've recorded together. How you guys doing?
Tom DeLonge is back. Hey, DeLonge.
Yeah.
You had sombrero today for lunch, right?
That's right. Yeah, how was sombrero, Nate?
Sombrero is great. Yeah, it's funny because I was gonna say, well, if you guys ask like, how am I doing? I'm saying, well, UFOs are real. The Earth is flat.
Yep.
Just start naming every possible conspiracy theory. But yeah, I did. I got sombrero earlier.
So you're ready to go. You're ready to talk music.
Yeah, not Blink though, But yeah, let's do it.
It's true, not Blink. Well, I mean, we could always work Blink in, and we did. We talked about DeLonge off the top. So yeah, here we are. Anthony, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I was thinking about a question to ask you, Nate, which was, is sombrero good? I've heard it's not that good. Like, it's only popular because of the song, but I don't want to throw him under the bus if it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a future sponsor. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, maybe. What did you get, Nate? I want to know. What'd you get?
My go-to lately, actually 3 times this week, not all sombrero, different places, is the carne asada burrito. Bomb. Just steak for all those that don't know. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, how's their portion sizes? Because I know Chipotle's under a lot of hot water.
Yeah,
because the portion sizes.
Oh yeah, shrinkflation.
Yep.
There was a viral video, a guy on TikTok. He filmed 2 either tacos or burritos that he got side by side, and one of them didn't have like anything in it. And
yeah, that's ridiculous.
And like Chipotle is probably in the comments, like, call us at corporate.
Well, the other thing that I love about that, and this is, now we're tangenting hard right now, but the McDonald's has this like McFlurry thing they're talking about, and every time they tweet it out, I see people being like, yeah, but the machine's broken. Yeah, but the machine's broken. And their bot is always like, hey, DM us and tell us what store you're talking about. It's like, no, your employees don't want to make McFlurries. That's the reason the machine is broken, I say in air quotes. Figure it out, McDonald's.
I went there in the last week to get ice cream cones for the kids on the drive home from daycare, and the machine was broken just for the ice cream. So
right.
It's actually a thing. It's not like an internet thing. It's a real thing.
Conspiracy Tony here. I think they just don't want to clean the ice cream machine. That's the issue.
Yeah, you could be right there, or they're just buying cheap parts and they just don't, they're like, we have a contract with the ice cream manufacturer for 50 years going forward, so it's going to be a minute.
Yeah, every machine is broken across the country, though. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and the margins probably aren't that good, so it's like, you want ice cream?
But we do love McDonald's. Anthony and I had it before a couple of concerts 2 weeks ago, so we're not anti-McDonald's. It's just, it's funny that the social medias are all run by bots at this point.
So, guys, I saw a headline, actually. It was today, and we've always said we're a pseudo Long Island podcast, and this story has Long Island ties. You guys familiar with a guy named Flava Flav?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yep.
Do you guys see the headline about him today?
No,
I didn't see it. No.
This is gonna read like hard times, but this is the headline: Flavor Flav orders the entire Red Lobster menu in effort to save the company.
Wow. Flavor
Long
Flav.
Island stays on top, baby.
Yeah, I mean, right, because they're going. They're closing? Is that what's going on with them?
File for bankruptcy, and they filed for bankruptcy protection last month in May, and I guess that was like the optics to stir up buzz, but I guess behind the scenes he's trying to work with them. It's those cheddar biscuits, I guess. I've never had it. Have you guys ever had Red Lobster?
Never had it. Nate, you ever heard it?
I never had. I mean, we lived in Maine, so I just drove by.
We had one though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I drove by it. I'm like, that's weird. That's here, but okay.
Right. There was one out by the mall.
That was the first one that go out of business, probably. I think I remember when they closed it down. I'm like, well, fuck, man. Was anyone going there? Like, could just go down to fucking Commercial Street and get the real shit.
I know. If you're at all familiar with Maine and lobster, you probably don't need to go to Red Lobster to get good lobster in Maine. But it is crazy that we had one and none of us had it.
Yeah, it's like living in San Diego and going to Sombrero and you could go to a local taco stand. Oh, see, now we lost that fucking sponsor.
Damn it, Nate. The reviews of Nate are not necessarily the views of Anthony and Tony, or Podioslave on the whole. Just there's our disclaimer.
I want that Red Lobster money if there's still any left. Like if they want to, I would have them be a sponsor if they
can Flavor Flav sponsor us, because that sounds like more fun to me.
The first question I would ask him is about the Taking Back Sunday video. How, why? I mean, I know both of those. I'm sure it's region, but
like, how does that first phone call go? And then you're like, yes, I'll be in that video. And it's amazing.
And that was the peak of his VH1 fandom.
That's true. Good point. Flavor of Love. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wow.
All right, we're off the rails, and we haven't even talked about what we're going to talk about tonight.
Tom DeLonge back.
I know. Yeah, we got you back, Nate. Nate, what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about a seminal record for our generation, and we're talking about Jimmy World Futures. Phenomenal record that came out 20 years ago, 2004.
Yeah, later this year. Yep.
Yeah. Super stoked to talk about it. Excited that we're all kind of going to throw our piece of the puzzle into this conversation. But I think I've always loved this record, but deep diving and researching and writing down notes, I think we've discussed this ad nauseum, but like you really start to find other little nuggets that you had not known about before, or maybe just passed over casually. You really start to just, digest everything and take everything apart and put it back together, and you hear things that you never heard before, or listen to the lyrics in a different lens. And it's a good exercise for anyone. For us, it's a pleasure. So I'm stoked.
It's music therapy, baby. And this is a great record when it comes to that. Just brings me back to a time and a place.
Hey, before we get into this, if you've listened to us, we love doing these album. I don't even know if we'll call them deep dives, because we only chat for an hour. And with that, we can't hit everything. We can't. We often just scratch the surface. Some of the critiques, and we love the critiques, so we actually do keep those coming, but we don't get deep enough on the lyrics or the songs. Or I remember someone was upset because we didn't mention the B-sides of the album. It's like, well,
right.
they didn't make the album, so maybe if we did a B-sides episode, but keep that in mind. This is an hour of friends talking about an album we love, so if you're down with it, help us help us out for next time. If there's something that we completely missed, because I'm sure this will not be the last Jimmy Eat World album we do, and it won't be the last deep dive we do for many bands. So
it's a good point. It's a good disclaimer. Yeah, because it's ultimately we're just nerding out about a record the three of us have decided to talk about that we all love. Depending on who pitched it, some more than others, but I think this one is a universal, like 10 stars out of 10 stars for the three of us, because we love the band. We've talked about the band before a couple different times. I think when they did their live stuff during COVID, we talked about it, because I think I bought one of them. I might have been Futures, because it's my favorite Jimmy Orr record, spoiler. And it just, the music is amazing. They don't miss, and this is a record that I think all of us feel that way about.
Where do you want to start? I know for these, we often have a blueprint of like, let's talk our core memories, songs, observations. We didn't do any of that alignment before. I know we all did our homework, and we've done our homework for 20 years with it. So yeah. I don't even know where we're going to start. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with our first memories of it.
That's a good call.
First hearing it. Yeah, where we were, what we remember about that time. Nate, lead us off, bud.
So it dropped. I don't know the exact date. Tony, you have the date. I know it's 04.
October of 2004.
Okay, that
10/19/04. 10/19/04.
Okay, so I was going to say I'm 95% sure it came out fall of 2004. So that sounds about right. And because when you think about place and time that you'd mentioned earlier, like where were we? Well, we were all in college. We were in college. So it's fall semester, and the music that we were listening into in high school would basically like come to not a hard stop, but it was starting to really kind of, the scene was changing. So like new metal was basically over in 04, and this emo pop punk scene was taking off at light speed. Kind of started in 02, right? And it just kept going. And 04 was like a pinnacle year for it. So there's like everything that's out is so fucking good. And this record is in like this sea of amazing music. So it's really hard to like focus on one record and give it the time of day, I feel like. And I knew that I loved it then, but doing the deep dive, I'm like, this really stood the test of time then, because I knew listening to it, I never skipped a song. And then thinking about it 20 years later, it's like, do those other records that were, killing it at the same time, do they stand up to this record? And I think the answer is definitively no.
Well, you said something interesting there, which is this type of music was really popping off. And for a lot of bands, you were starting to see album 2 around this time. I know for Jimmy Eat World, this was album 4, and if you count I think it's the first EP, you could say 4 or 5, whatever. They'd been around. They predated all that, which for a lot of people didn't know they existed before Bleed American.
Yeah, yep.
Realistically, right? And I'll echo what you said. This album kind of has no business being this good because it is that far into the catalog, and you're seeing, I'm not going to throw any names out, but you're seeing bands that popped in that early 2000s put out crap because either they were following the trend, industry plant, there was no roots there, and or they changed genres, changed sound. And I don't think they necessarily did this. And we'll get into that. I have thoughts on the whole sound of this album. But
well, they just got, I'm jumping on that because it's piqued my interest. They just got poppier and cleaner, I think, as far as sound goes from Bleed American. And Bleed American was that way too. And then Into Futures, I think it just kind of was not a continuation of Bleed American because it's certainly different, but similar in production value, I think.
It's interesting. I'll comment on that because I didn't really notice it until doing this kind of deep dive in prep. I mean, I've lived with it for 20 years, but I never made this connection that I think they could have gone even more poppier after Bleed American. You saw a lot of bands do that. This, to me, is the perfect blend of what you might expect post Bleed American, but there's a lot of callbacks to Clarity. And when we get into tracks, there's some in particular that it's total callback. So while it is a callback, this has the fit and finish and the polish of a major, big backing. You get Gil Norton producing, which we'll get into, I'm sure. But yeah, I think it may have took people by surprise, just in that it kind of molded maybe everything up to that point, or blended everything up to that point into this release.
Yeah, I remember when I had the record, and I don't know if you guys had the same one. The CD, it was like a double CD, and one was it a DVD? You guys know what I'm talking about, or was it a B-sides? Because I never actually listened to that second part of the package.
I don't remember, man.
Yeah, I allegedly may not have paid for this originally.
Okay.
I have paid for it since.
Okay, yeah. Said it. I wasn't gonna.
Someone left the CD at your house. Is that what you're saying? Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, someone left the CD at my house, but I can't remember. It might have gotten stolen out of my car. I can't remember.
Yeah, but you did rip it on the computer, but legally, because you essentially did buy it and left it at the house.
Yeah, and then I burned it and put it on my, exactly. Yep.
Oh man, see, that's good for context of time because that was an era.
Hey man, I was a broke college kid who was just trying to get by, but also loved music and could not buy 1,000 CDs a week, even though I wanted to.
Yeah, and this obviously was pre-streaming. This was in the piracy era, but if you were a real music fan, you were buying the shit, and it could have gone either one way. It's either you heard the single, you bought the album, the rest of the album sucks, or it's something like this, which, I mean, I'll say it, front to back album. I don't think you're skipping an album, and there's not a lot of, I mean, it's what, 11 tracks. There's not a lot of fat on this anyway, and of course it's got the 7-minute closer, but Drugs Are Me, 6 minutes, I'm not skipping that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And like you were saying, like then as well as now is front to back. And it's weird because we're always like, man, it must have been interesting growing up in the vinyl era where like you had to listen to the whole record front to back and then you flip it. Well, we kind of got a little bit of that too with CDs because we were buying the CD, putting it in our CD deck in the car. And like you could skip the song in theory, but if it's that good that it's basically meant to be played through, you don't skip because there's no inclination to do so in the first place. And this record right out of the gate, like right if you take off the plastic wrap and everything, you put it in, you're like, oh wow, this song's good too. Oh, this is good too. Fuck, it's almost like it's building. It's like, and how is the tempo this high throughout? Even like the ballads up until 23, like it still seems like it's going to be a slow song, and then it hits still. So like, there's no reason to really skip songs and get tired. Like, oh, I'm not in the mood for this one. It just kind of, it's consistent, but in a really interesting way. It's production wise, like you said, is solid.
Yeah, and they had left Mark Trombino, right? He had done a bunch of stuff with them prior, and then they switched over to Gil Norton, as Anthony said, for production for this record. I remember my specific Jimmy Eat World memories from this time are, and I mentioned this on our Perfect Songs episode early this year, is going to Rob's DJ place there. He DJ'd at a place called CJ Thirsties in Portland, Maine, which no longer exists.
CJ.
Yeah, and we would get
Yes.
him. We would
Hell
get him
yeah.
to play the song. Late night. We'd be like, "Hey, toss work on," or toss, something from Futures, because it was around that time, and it was, just something that was top of mind for all of us. And he was working at the radio station and playing songs from Jimmy Eat World daily, because they obviously had become a pretty big rock radio band. And yeah, just kind of bonding over that. Nate, I'm sure you remember some of that.
Yeah, definitely.
It was just a blast, right? I mean, that's my favorite like part of this from that time frame was the handful of friends that were still kicking around at home, that weren't at college away from where we lived growing up, that were still, listening to music every day and hanging out, doing what we did.
Well, and sonically, this album, I don't even know the best way to put it. It could act as a support system for that whole scenario.
Absolutely.
100%.
It was.
Just, I mean, forget the lyrics, just sonically, musically. There's songs that I associate like some late drives, summer drives, windows down, and typically it would be just me in the car,
Same. I feel that.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of my bullet points is what does the record make you remember, feel? And it is associated a lot with travel, whether it's actual travel nationally or internationally, or just like you said, in your car, like hung out with some buddies, you put it in, you're playing, you're driving home, it's dark, and it's beautiful music lyrically and instrumentally. But yeah, in terms of like how the record is perceived, it has that kind of emotional, upbeat, positive association to it because it was simpler times, I guess, maybe, but also because it, like you said, it's a conduit of people that you were hanging out with and the memories associated with that record. So I mean, I agree completely. I think it was another one of those records that came out at the perfect time for our kind of age demographic.
Well, I'm just thinking about relationships from that time, songs that I was projecting onto my life, which we all do, right? With music, especially in that age range, 20, 19, whatever, and living your life through the record you're listening to. And this was a perfect one for that at 19 years old. Like, I was just trying to live. I felt like I was living the song "Kill" every day, with somebody that I was into that wasn't necessarily bad. You reciprocating those feelings, that type of thing. Very easy to get lost in that at 19 years old. Today, not so much, but you know what I mean.
100%. And take a song like Night Drive. To me, I've always pictured that as a song in a movie, like a movie soundtrack, and then you kind of paint that. I'm to totally get what you're saying, because you paint it kind of on your own movie, right?
Yep.
And we'll get into that song. I'm sure we'll go. I don't know if we'll do track by track, but
we might have to. It's too good to skip out on anything, right?
Oh man, track by track. I actually wrote notes track by track for that reason, just in case it became a formula
I
on
did
the fly.
the Nate thing, and I've been doing this a little bit on my own. But the last time we did one of these, Nate said just write a couple of words down when you listen to a song, and I did that in prep for this because I've been kind of doing it, but then I was like, well, I'm gonna focus on that the way that Nate kind of explained it, and I did it a different way just because of this podcast, boys. So thanks.
Hey, before we do track by track, are there any like themes or observations that you notice from this? I mean, I think one observation is, like you said, Gil Norton comes in, they work with Trombino. I think I read that they fired Trombino, and I don't know the full story there, but Gil was known for Foos, Color and the Shape, and Counting Crows, and all that. To me, I don't notice a difference, really. I think this one you could say is more rockin', although there's rockers on Bleed American. There's some heavy stuff. I think this album is heavy. Like, the opener's heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nothing wrong, right? I mean, again, it's always like how and the why, and was it intentional? There's heavy stuff, but then there's stuff that could have been on Clarity,
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, something I noticed, and maybe it's part of that travel kind of association that we were talking about, driving at night, in some cases traveling on a flight in your headphones and whatnot, is the album, like we were talking about earlier, is a front to back record, but there's a very like visceral, like almost like you're listening to it, but it seems like it's like a live show as well. And that might be part of like the high tempo, high energy element of the record, but it just hits nonstop, right? It's just like hit after hit. Like you said, there's no fucking bad songs. So you just keep going. So it's almost like you're at a show that's a greatest hits show. Like fuck, dude, they're playing all their hits front to back, like 12, 11 songs straight. Like, damn. That was my impression then. It's my impression definitely getting ready for this episode is, wow, I feel like I'm at a Jimmy Eat World Greatest Hits show.
And that's saying something because they have other records with amazing songs in them. I mean, just recent records with amazing songs in them. So, yeah, they continue to be, one of my favorite, one of our, I think, favorite bands collectively. All right, let's do songs. Let's run through. Do we want to give our 3 favorite, or do we want to just go track by track?
I would say, yeah, let's go highlights, and maybe I don't know. I kind of want to.
Let's do track by track.
Let's do track by track.
Let's do track. Okay.
Geek out
All right.
fast.
Opening track, Futures, fucking rockin' opener, upbeat. To me, this could have been on Bleed American because it's a very much like, hey, we're back, but we never left, and we're gonna do what we're gonna do. But I love this. Sometimes you skip a song because you've heard it so many freaking times. The first song on the album, I've never skipped this. I've never skipped Futures.
Yeah, no, like you said, right out of the gate, it just comes at you. One note I wrote down is it's a fucking anthem too, like a straight up generational anthem right out of the gate. Like, first song is an anthem. Like, are you kidding me? And in terms of like the shift, because there is a little bit of a shift within the band, and also like we were stating at the beginning of like this era that was ending in music, and also this new era that's already happening, but this record and this band kind of brought it up a notch. In that is almost like an end of something that was pretty big, but making it a little bit edgier, and I don't know, just taking it to a new stratosphere. But yeah, dude, Futures as a title track and as an opening track is just clutch.
Great title track, great opening track. Love the riff, love the kind of mid-tempo, upbeat, anthemic nature of the song. And it has the riff has a little tinge of like metal in it, which I kind of think is cool.
Got an edge, baby.
Yeah. Which they do a couple times on this record, and they do a couple times throughout their discography. So yeah, I'm with you. Future's great. Really, when we've done the side one, track one album opener episodes, I'm surprised that none of us have picked this one because it is a great album opener.
Great album openers. You just said something there. The guitars have I don't know what the word is, edge or a crunch to them. On Just Tonight, track 2, crunchy guitars during the verses, and there's like an urgency. You get that with Jimmy Eat World, and you got it with Bleed American. There's some urgency to some of the songs. This, I've always kind of felt that, where it keeps the tempo. And I wish I could remember the first time I listened to this album, because I'm sure I was like, shit, go to track 2, shit.
Man. Yep.
You know? Man, I wish I could relive these albums first time listening.
Yep.
Dude, it's so funny. It's like the way you're explaining it. It's like have you ever seen the movie 1912 or the movie movie Uncut Gems? Or there's a lot of movies that came out.
Uncut Gems? Gems?
Yeah. Movies like that where like the whole time it's intense and your heart's like racing. It's kind of like what you're talking about with this record, where it's like there's some urgency.
Like
it's
speed?
Like, yeah. Yeah. I put fast as well as a note, as well as like just very visceral instrumentally. Like if you took away Jim's lyrics, it's just 360 sound, kind of like, I mean, a perfect in your car record. And in terms of those guitar licks, I actually wrote 80s rock. There's some 80s elements in there too, if you like really zone in on or zero in on it, that I at least picked up on. Whether that was intentional
Gil
or not,
Norton
I'm not sure.
Through.
Yeah, exactly. Could be.
Yeah, that Just Tonight, full of energy, keeps the pace up after Futures, probably picks it up a notch even, and continues to kind of get you ready for the rest of the record, I think, with, you're right, visceral, this kind of like, oh man, if you're driving, you kind of push down on the gas a little bit too fast, right? That's definitely how this one feels.
Tone, you segue us into this.
I think Work is the best Jimmy Eat World song. I've said this on this podcast. I will continue to say it. It's my favorite Jimmy Eat World song. Everything about it is perfect to me. There's not a missed note. There's not a missed line. There's not a feeling that is misplaced. The whole thing works in this 4-minute bow. Right into just when they jump into the chorus and it just hits you like a ton of bricks, even though it's not as heavy as the first 2 songs. It hits you probably harder than the first 2 songs. I can't say enough good things about Work. It's my favorite Jimmy Eat World song. I think it's their best song.
Well, the other thing it does, it goes in the direction you would want it to go. Like you said there's no fat, there's no extra note, there's no extra lyric syllable. It's a great, I was going to say pop song, but it's just a great song. I don't know. I'm with you. kind of at a loss for words because was this a single?
It was, yeah.
I
It
think
was the
Pain and Work were singles, right?
second single. Yeah, it came out in December of 04.
Yeah, great song. That I don't know if I'd put it as one, but it's very high for me in their catalog as far as songs go.
Also had Liz Phair backing vocals, which I know we mentioned on the Perfect Songs episode earlier this year, but mentioning it again right now.
Yeah, I can vouch for all those points. For me, it was the riff right out of the gate. You know, it draws you in, but then it just continues to go. Again, I wrote Anthem again. It's a full on generational anthem. Perfect production, like you said, perfect lyrics to the music. It's just one of those lightning in a bottle songs. Like, man, everyone was firing away on this song, and to the point that what you were saying, Tony and Anthony, like this would basically be like the perfect formula for like a producer to be like, hey, write a song like that, not because it's going to sell a million records, because instrumentally and lyrically and just vibe wise, that's a song that everyone can kind of agree on. Like this makes me feel great. This is a great song. Like, holy shit, who's this band? You know? And then likewise, they're big at the time, but they're not massive. But the way I was listening to the song earlier, it's like, fuck, dude, if this was like a U2 song, this would be a song, an anthem in a stadium type song where the crowd gets to, you know, have their part to sing along and carry the song as well. Like it's that fucking good. And I couldn't get away from that. Like, damn, this band could be massive, you know, with this song
I
alone.
think they are massive. They got 11 million monthly listeners today. I mean, they're still
Yeah.
You say U2. We're gonna park that U2 thought. We're gonna come back to
I
it
saw that a
at the
couple
end.
times myself. Yep.
Nice.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Think about
It's probably the same thing because it's funny.
All right. Like I said, I think it's their best song. Others also agree it's their best song, but not everybody. I know Spose didn't agree with us, me on that one. I know Rob probably didn't. I think he said top 3 or 4, but it's the best song. I'm sorry. It's the best Jimmy World song. It is. Sorry, I can't help it.
Argue in the DMs. Track 4 is Kill. This is one, it's Clarity vibes through and through. The verses could have been on Clarity. And I would love to, you know, if we ever had them on the podcast, one of those guys, like I'd love to know if this song and if all these songs were written in this session, because you could plug and play some of these songs with, I don't know, I'm not as familiar with Static Prevails. I haven't spent as much time with that, but Clarity, some of these songs you could plug and play on that and plug and play on Bleed American. But I think Kill could be my favorite song on it's top 2 to 3 on the album for sure.
Kill is an amazing song. I love the Elliott Smith Heat Miser reference. I love the opening kind of acoustic guitar riff thrown at you. It's everything that 19-year-old me felt as a, you know, in relationships and how I was getting through my day-to-day with, you know, trying to figure out who I was as a person. Like I spent so much time trying to live in this world. I'm glad I'm out of it. Like we grow up, we find out who we are, we meet the people we love, and we, you know, become adults. But at 19, you're trying to figure all that shit out, and this song was a big piece of that for me.
Jim Atkins, and man, that dude, I'm assuming if he doesn't do all the writing, he is obviously a big part of it, whether it's lyrics, music. That dude can write a song, and it's not an accident because he's done it dozens and dozens and dozens of times.
For real. We were talking favorite tracks, like Work, this song, and another song are my top 3. And that acoustic intro, like you had mentioned, one of my favorite lyrics of all time, then and now, and in different kind of like states of mind, being older now, is the lyric, I can picture your face now from the bar in my hotel. That one, like, that's such a perfect lyric. If you've done any like business travel, or just for anyone that's gone away to college, or, you know, it's just like it literally zeroes in on like the emotion, where you don't have to think about what is he talking about. Like he's just putting it out there. So that's another, to your point, Twan, like, I don't know, movie soundtrack scene, like, oh, he's just telling you exactly what it is. And you can't help but feel that emotion in his voice in that lyric, fitting the instrumentals like a perfect piece of the puzzle. Just amazing. And the tempo, and God, it's just such a good song. Yeah, top 3 for me too.
Well, the thing is this is the power of music, because when this came out, we were, what, 19? You know, that line probably didn't hit you, Nate, back then.
Exactly.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But you spend 20 years with it, and you dissect it and digest it, and you have all this life experience, and then you listen to it again, and you're like, shit,
Exactly.
that's what he's talking about. Power
You
music,
nailed
man.
it. You fucking nailed it. And I think that is why it's stood the test of time for us collectively. It
Mm-hmm.
because we have an emotional connotation to it, positive, and then you grow with it, and then like that line alone, like yeah, I wasn't at a bar, hotel thinking about someone that deeply at 19, but now like it's happened more times than I can count, because traveling gets lonely and you just think about people and you have time to ponder, so it has a new life. That whole song is a new life, and it had then, but it was almost like I was living that vicariously.
Great song. Yeah, but we can keep going on that one. I have
So
more
we're
to say, but we're gonna keep moving.
so we're 4 for 4. So we're on track 5, "The World You Love." To me, another one could have been on Clarity. This has clear big room production, and I think
Yep.
that's yeah. I don't know. I just it's tricky because we could spend hours doing this and praise these songs, but I don't know if I have any more to say about "The World You Love." It's just great.
That's a perfect way to explain it. It's big room. It sounds great. It sounds great coming out of any speaker, whether you're listening to your headphones late at night, whether you're in the car with the windows down, whether you're in the car with it raining and the windows up. Like it always works. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, I put a few things down. The drums are very pronounced on this track, and the kind of signature Jimmy Eat World repeated lyrics, which is for this one, "Help me get over it, get over it." That's like quintessential Jimmy Eat World. Like that tone and that cadence is
You're so right.
timeless.
Yeah, yeah.
So good. Yeah, that's a great one. All right. The first single, the lead single, Pain. I feel like Bleed American 2.0, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the lead single, it gets you ready for the album. It's heavier than most of the rest of the album. And it flexes that muscle for Jimmy Eat World, right? They get to do this and so yeah, we can do this too, guys. Just so you know, we put a whole record out like this, you'd love this too.
Yeah, I think this is my least favorite song on the album, which again, that's, you say that, but it's still a great song. It's like an A minus. It's not an A plus like the rest of the album. I said earlier, it's a front to back. It is a front to back, but I actually tend to skip this song listening through. Just me though.
Do you think that's because it was the first single and you heard it everywhere first?
Yeah, all day long. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a great song, but I mean, do I want to listen to Pain or am I going to listen to Work again or listen to Kill again? It's
Exactly.
I wish we could listen to more than one song at once. I guess you could, but it wouldn't be enjoyable.
It'd be weird, yeah. And this is the most spins, I think, on Spotify. I think 85 million or so. But that
Wow.
makes sense, right? It was probably put on a bunch of playlists too, even after the fact with Spotify, and was the lead single. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I love the song. I think it's amazing. And I love the A minus instead of A plus because it's still an A. But yeah, I guess that there's something to say about listening or hearing a single too much where it just takes away a little bit of the song based out of maybe just overdoing it. And obviously radio, that was like their formula is, let's play it 4 times an hour.
yeah, we did hear it a lot on the radio.
Yeah. So it can take away from the song. But yeah, amazing song. And again, one of those sing-along anthems. Again, they keep going with this record.
And then the next song, I did some reading on this because I love Drugs Are Me, which is track 7, right? It kind of flips the perspective of Pain to the other, other shoe.
Side. Yeah.
And brilliant song, captures the moment. It's got heavy lyrics. It's just a vibe. I don't know. That's the best way we always write notes for this stuff. It's a vibe. Drugs Are Me, all-time song.
It really is. And I hadn't noticed this, even though I've listened to it a million times. But when we put the call out on social media for some folks to chime in on what they thought of it, first off, this guy's handle is ridiculous. Brad Pitt's Rollin' 7 is the name of his handle, which is funny to me. It's not his actual handle, but that's what he put as his name. And he said the transition from Pain into Drugs Are Me is all-time transition for him. I think it's a him. I'm assuming. I apologize. But for them, as a transition from song to song, and it makes sense that they're together because of it's both perspectives. I hadn't thought of that before now.
That is a really good point. I actually didn't think about that. So props to whoever that was.
Brett, Twan just said that or read it somewhere, but yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Very personal and deep lyrics. I haven't, and I don't know about you guys, have never really been closely associated with someone that was really hardcore into drugs. So I can't relate on that level, but I can really relate on just, losing someone to just something parallel in that they become a shell of the person that they were. And it's really it's really sad and heart-wrenching to watch that, dissipate. And I connected this song for that reason in a lot of ways. And something else that hit me about the song is my huge appreciation for the 90s scene in the grunge era with Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains. And I thought, man, this is basically like a reverse Alice in Chains Lane Staley type lyric, because it's not Lane Staley talking about his struggles. It's like you said to the track before, like him talking about the person that's on those drugs and like pleading and making an anthem and just heart to heart song about, fuck dude, this is fucked, and it's not even me, it's you. And that's really sad to see, and there's nothing I can do about it. It just draws you in that really depressing way, but there's a little bit of release after the song too, that you feel a little bit better, even though you feel better because you are feeling his feelings and letting that just be out in the world.
Brilliant song. Brilliant song. This was always a standout for me. And then you get right into Polaris, which I think the last like minute and a half of this song is just, I don't know, if someone said, hey, play Jimmy Eat World for me, like the back half of this song it sums up them in this era, I would say.
I wrote down, I forgot how good this song is.
Yeah.
Put the record on, you listen through 4, 5, 6 songs, depending on how far your drive is, right? And maybe you don't always get to Polaris, but if you put it on with the intent of finishing it, you get to Polaris, and you're like, whoa, track 8's pretty fucking dope. Shut out JT from Mother Nights.
That's right. Ohio is for lovers, baby.
Yeah, it's like a deep cut song that comes out of left field. You're like, fuck, man, this is strong. Actually, this is, in terms of my top 3, this is my top 3. So I mentioned the other 2 earlier, is this song. And in a lot of cases, if I'm just going to listen to a song off this record, like call it Spotify, and you just want to listen to one, I go to this one first. I just love it. Timeless crescendo. So I wrote another timeless lyric that I really appreciate is, can you tell me you say that the love goes anywhere in your darkest times? It's just enough to know it's there. And that, like, the way he sings it, it's, again, it draws you in, but it's so personal and so visceral. And I think maybe I listened to that. I skipped to that song, or not skip to that song, but go to Jimmy Eat World and play the song directly just for that line, which is, I guess, extremely nerdy, but.
Oh, I've done that. I've done that with this band. I totally feel that.
Well, the thing with Jimmy Eat World and with Jim Adkins is, obviously they're personal to him, but he writes the lyrics in a way that they can be universal. Yeah, there's certain references to certain things that he's talking about, but you can extrapolate that to you. It's not like Deftones' cryptic thing where, half of the enjoyment is figuring out what the hell he's talking about. Like these, you can figure out, and like we've said earlier, you can make them your own almost universally.
That's the sign of an amazing song written, right? I mean, it's something that you know that there's some meaning behind it for the person who wrote it, but you can also take it and make it yours.
Man, we're 8 for 8. I think we're into Nothing Wrong.
Cool riff. I wrote cool riff, heavy riff, and I like the way that this one. It's another one that like I didn't always get to when putting the record on because of wherever you were going in the car, and that's where most of my listening was done back when this record came out. So, but just a solid Jimmy Eat World track.
I mean, is it the heaviest Jimmy Eat World song? I mean, it's probably, right?
It's up there,
yes.
yeah.
100% yes. Yeah, I think so. Just coming out of the gate like that, like fucking, I couldn't help but think like the pictures you sent, Anthony, like of these like, metal bands, like hardcore bands with like the singer in the pit and giving the mic to the crowd. Like that's like what comes to mind of this song for whatever reason, maybe just the fucking riff right out of the gate.
Well, and then, they're masters of this where they have songs complement each other in like opposite ways, and then they get into Night Drive. And as I said earlier, I always like thought this would be perfect in a movie soundtrack, and I actually just thought of it. This song would be perfect in Garden State, the movie.
Yep.
Oh man,
absolutely.
Yeah, instead of that Shin song, throw in Night Drive.
Fuck, dude, yeah.
Yep, agreed. And it's a cool vibe. And I think it's different than the rest of the record. I'm not sure that it's the same as what we've heard to this point. For sure it's not, because we've gotten a lot of like kind of heavier anthemic things. We've gotten some stuff around relationships that aren't working, whether they be on one side of it or the other. But then we get this one, which is like, yeah, everything's fine. We're going to go for a night drive. We're going to be together. We're going to figure this out, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And in fact, like today when I listened to like the lyrics, like on Spotify, pumping Spotify, but you listen to the song and you can actually pull up the lyrics. And I really like dove into the lyrics a lot because they're very straightforward, but there's also a lot of like kind of analogies and just interesting like ways to word things that make you think a little bit deeper. Like, is this what he means? There's like a lot of double meanings in a lot of the lyrics, which I thought was super interesting. Just an interesting and cool way to write music. But you can't help but listen to the song and just be like, man, like I remember those. I remember when this happened to me personally. You know, what do they call it a high school night drive, pick up your girlfriend and just like chill by the water or whatever.
Nate was so much cooler than we were, Anthony.
Some extracurricular activities, maybe.
Yeah. Down at Willard Beach.
Lover's Lane.
Oh, and then they drop Michael Jordan on your ass, 23.
Right?
Seriously.
What else can be said about this fucking song? I have it as a top 5, probably a top 3 Jimmy Eat World song for me. It's the best album closer. It's an amazing album closer, like from any band ever. It's a song that I resonated with a ton because I was 19 when it came out, and now I'm like, or 20 when it came out, and now I'm like 40, and I still like, oh man, I look back on this differently. Like it's been so many different things for me as a music fan, and it's 20 years as a song. So I fucking love this song.
Is it safe to say no one likes you when you're 23?
No one. Yeah. No one liked me when I was 23, except for you guys. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I saw them in Portland at Thompson's Point with Third Eye Blind, and we were late, and they were playing this as we were walking in, and I was so upset that I wasn't in the crowd already. And shout out to my wife for still being with me after that day, because I was so angry. I was not at her, just generally not a fun person to be around, because I was like, I'm missing my favorite fucking song.
Great song. I'll cut to the chase. This is what I wrote for my notes for this. There's some strings in there. That was one observation, some strings in there. But it's moody, 7 minutes of bliss, epic shit.
Yes.
And actually, wasn't this your last track magic pick?
Yeah, was it me or Nate? I can't even remember. How long back was that? 70 episodes ago.
Yeah. One of you. It was one of you two.
Probably me, because I fucking love this song.
I think it was you. I remember if it was me. Fuck, dude. Yeah, I love those notes because that's what it comes down to. Keep it simple, hit those points, and you can kind of riff from there. And yeah, for me, it was best talking about just like writing a note, and whether it's completely true or not is subjective. But I put best ballad of all time.
So good.
Yeah, hit us in the DMs if you disagree.
Yeah, I just think it's that good. Whether I, wrote that out of emotion, listen to it and be like, fuck, it's that good. I also wrote relatable in what 23 actually was when I think about how old I was or when I was 23 and like the lyrics being transferable. It was like, fuck yeah. I mean, was he watching? Did he know? Just so good. That solo in the song is
so good.
Jimi Hendrix, John Frusciante, just fucking full emotion in a guitar lick to the nines, like at 4:59 right to 5:33, like a half minute of, like you said, Tuan, just bliss. Again, it's totally appropriate in that spot. Without it, it would be missing something. And
then back into the chorus, which like is delivered with a little more force this time too. It's so fucking good. Oh man, yeah. 7 minutes of what it doesn't ever really lose your interest, and some songs that are that long can certainly lose your interest. This one does not.
Yeah.
Other observation: they nailed the bookends. Right, Futures that had to go first. 23 had to go last.
Yep.
Sequencing is, we spoke about it a million times in this podcast. I think in order for you to have one of these primo front to back albums, they have to be in sequence. If they're not, then I don't know. Like this just keeps your attention. And there's enough curveballs, like Drugs Are Me, a little bit of a curveball coming off of Pain, right? Nothing Wrong at a Night Drive. You're like, okay, another curveball. And then they land the plane with 23, which is, that's actually awesome. They played it live that recent. I didn't know they played this live action.
Man. Great show. Third Eye Blind also killed it, and this was pre-pandemic, so it was a really fun night. Once everything got going and we get in there and had our time. But one of the only times I've seen them. The other time was with you, Anthony, at Aura in Portland, Maine. Couple years
one of the
prior.
early Aura shows
for the record they put out, Integrity Blues, that year. So, which was an awesome show. First time I ever saw them. They were a band that for a long time I didn't think I'd ever see, and then I got to see them a couple of times in a couple of years.
I get two more things to bring up. The first is the album artwork. Did they not fucking nail it? They nailed it.
Nailed
wrote
it.
that. Yep.
It's
Like,
behind me. It's right
even
there.
oh, nice. Even down, like, it's the colors shape how I think about the song, and that happens with a lot of records. There it is. Tony's holding up a vinyl copy, and it's the dude in front of the telephone booth, and
Yep.
it's dirty, it's desolate, it's isolate. He's got his head down, looks like a hoodie on. He's just, I don't even know if there's a phone in there. I never really looked.
Is he waiting for the phone to ring? It looks like there is.
It says out of order on it.
It says out of order, yeah. Yeah.
But it's a perfect, again, another reason why it's a perfect album, I think, is the artwork has to be on point. And this, I don't know, we're going through our checklist of perfect albums, and this, artwork, yes. Songs, yes. Tracks, lyrics.
Production.
The whole
everything.
nine. Production. Yeah, it's got it.
Yeah.
I think this is the 10th anniversary copy, so I've had this for a decade now.
Yeah, I wrote a note on that cover art too. It's basically the opposite of Bleed American too. So it kind of takes you for surprise, like, oh, that's full of color. This is basically black and white. Very similar. There's a lot of parallels actually, now that I think of it, that from like Weezer, Blue album, and then to Pinkerton, like the kind of darkness in this record, opposed to Bleed American. Not that there isn't on that record. And the Only in Dreams on Blue record and 23 on this record have that same kind of like, I don't know, sonic, guitar that kind of like wails at the end and kind of continues to drag on for all the right reasons type ballad.
Well, I think Blue is Weezer's best album, and I think this is Jimmy Eat World's best album, which I know not a lot of people will probably agree with me. People will go to Clarity.
Mm-hmm.
They might go elsewhere, but they don't. Futures might be 2 or 3 for a lot of people, but for me, it's number 1. And for all the reasons stated the last hour, there's nothing on it that isn't where it's supposed to be, and that's why I love it.
Yeah, I think most people would land in that 3-album stretch, right? Clarity, Bleed, or Futures. And that's a 3-album run for the ages.
So good.
Yeah.
You could throw Static in there, and then what was after Chase This Light? I actually haven't spent a lot of time with Chase This Light, so I don't know.
There are good songs on Chase This Light. Some really good songs. Big Casino, right? Big Casino's on there. That's a great song.
Yeah, that's a single.
Yeah, and they continue to make good records. I loved Surviving, which was a couple of years back. I love Integrity Blues. This band doesn't miss. They have songs, obviously, here and there that it's like, okay, this is maybe not the level of Futures from front to back, but they continue to put out really awesome and interesting music, and they're one of my favorite bands ever. And this record is probably their best for me.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I was thinking about too, then and now, kind of actually was an old memory that kind of came back to me, mainly from the memories associated with the record, and thinking like, what was I thinking then? As a non-musician, I'm still a non-musician, just an appreciator of music, but was the fact that you can still write, call it an 04, if you were someone that was, aspiring to be a musician that made a difference and put out songs that were timeless. Like, this record proves that you can still write universally timeless songs and records even then. Like, in other words, like, not everything's been done yet. You can still do it. There's still so much on the table, and this record, I feel like, proved that. So if I played guitar or like wrote lyrics to this record in 04, when you might think, well, everything's been done, well, no, this record proves that it absolutely has not been done yet, which is crazy to think, and shows that there's still so much runway ahead of it.
Well, and also that you don't have to completely sell out. Now, I'm sure there's a camp of people from Static and Clarity, although people forget Clarity was on a major label, so it's tough
exactly.
Yeah, but you can still make good art that is accessible to the masses, but not concocted in a lab that's, cranking out pop singles. There's, clear single, like Pain, to me, that's the clear single. But I think this as a piece of art stands on its own. Separate the major label stuff, because I don't think they fell into that. They really didn't. On this album.
No.
Yeah. To your point, like, they didn't have to wear skinny ties and like wear the same uniform. It was just like good music first and everything else second, which is cool. Even the tour for this record, like, there was no, curated optic on, okay, we are this now. It was just, no, here's the music. All right, let's fucking play. And I think that'll always be appreciated from the fan, because it's not, like you said, curated in a lab where it's like, oh, well, this has obviously been something that's been planned down to like the stage production glitter. This is just a record that's solid, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Can I hand out an L real quick?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think Pitchfork gave this as a review?
Oh, well, you just
Oh,
segued
shit.
right into where I was going. I know the number.
You know the number, yeah. The number
Yeah.
out of 10, Nate. Guess. Give us the number out of 10. They do a something point something scale.
Wow. I mean, well, you guys kind of gave me a preview, but
Yeah, it's not very good.
yeah, it sounds like it's not good, which is the opposite of the way we're perceiving this. 4 out of 10.
Worse,
Lower.
3.0 out of 10.
Holy
Pitchfork.
shit.
Gathering L's for 30 years. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out, boys and girls and folks and everybody in all walks of life that work for Pitchfork. Yeah, I love to troll Pitchfork on Twitter. So if you've ever seen me do that, I appreciate you.
So in terms of like food analogies, if they're rating just food type, that means pizza is like the worst fucking thing you
Yeah,
can
they don't
eat.
like pizza. They're out on pizza. You're right.
Well, wow, this is, you guys are the segue kings. Yeah. So when you mentioned U2 earlier,
Yeah.
it's a callback to what I'm going to say here, but you just mentioned food. I'm going to read you an excerpt from the review.
You have the review
Okay.
as well. I have it sitting
Yeah.
right here. Yep.
You ready for this? And this shows you that you can put something out into the world and you might think it's temporary. No, my friend. The Wayback Machine
Always there.
is always there. The internet, it'll haunt you. Here's the excerpt. Futures is like a rotten onion, revealing layer upon layer of foulness. Imagine some guy writing this. Like, what did this band ever do to you, buddy? He says, musically, Jimmy Eat World have gone overboard with the trick they learned from U2. Keep something somewhere jingling the same notes over and over again. Adkins' vocals are as whiny as ever. I mean,
Disagree.
Are they? No.
Hard disagree.
But here they sound canned as well.
Ugh.
I mean, hey, some things age great. This album has aged great. This review has aged terribly.
Yeah,
So
that's why we're handing out L's. And with a tagline like this is the byline for the article. With songs like Work, Kill, and Pain, Jimmy Eat World may have finally dragged emo down as far as it can go. Did you
Wow.
listen to any of those songs, my friend? Because
Yeah.
maybe you don't like the names, and maybe you feel like they're a little boring because it's one word. But those songs are all amazing. And yeah, L for Pitchfork. Sorry.
Amazing. You literally have to go against your body's natural inclination. Like you'd have to like inject serotonin in yourself and like not smile. Be like, no, it's terrible.
Yeah, this band that got huge after Bleed American, I can't like the next record. That's not hipster enough for me. That's what this says to me. And then that whatever. I mean, music is subjective. Maybe this person didn't like it. Looking back on it through 2024 lens, it was a clear wrong. Sorry, man. Didn't do it justice to what the record actually is.
and that's the shtick. I get it. You beat up on what's ever popular and you go against whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
They pushed it a little too far with this one, and I don't know. After reading this, it's like, can you take anything else serious? At least by this.
It's
by the
hard
author,
to.
but,
It's hard
yeah,
to
it's
take
hard to.
them seriously because of this stuff like this, where we can go in a 20-minute diatribe about why it's hard to take Pitchfork seriously, and we're not the only people that have ever done that. But this certainly doesn't help their case.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I could think of was if the band took such a different direction from, let's call it, and Green Day still kills it, but I'm saying Green Day Warning into American Idiot, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is bullshit, because you just wanted it to stay what it was. And obviously there was a clear shift in paradigm for that band at that exact moment. This isn't that, though. With Jimmy Eat World, this is not that at all. It's literally a continuum leveling up from
It's
Jimmy.
a level up. Yeah, exactly.
From
It's
Bleed
stair
American.
steps. That was the note I took, which is there's stair steps to get here. Now, if you were a fan of the demo or the first EP and they put this out, yeah, okay, then I think you can stand on solid ground and say, yeah, they sold out. No, the way it happened,
Nope.
Static, Clarity, Bleed American into this, it all makes sense. And like I said, they call back to early era. So
Yep. All right, can
That's
I
an
leave you
L.
with this? And this is why I think this record resonates with so many people. We throw out the call to our friends on all the social media platforms, and we got a bunch of songs back. Pat from IG said 23 is the best Jimmy song. Danny from Heavy Hex, we had him on a couple weeks back. He has Work as his favorite song because of the riff. Brian from My Weekly Mixtape and Playlist Wars, who we've had on in the past, likes Futures. That's his favorite song. So like all these people, Aaron, I think from the Itch wrote all of the songs from the record. So everybody
Right.
just picked a bunch of songs here. And I think even myself, I wrote Work. Yeah, just again to game the algorithm a little bit, which doesn't ever work. But I wrote down Work as the best song. So yeah, there's a bunch of different songs for people here, and that's why I think this record is stood the test of time for so many people, is because you can pick a song and dig into that, and it can be your favorite song that day, and you can do it again with another one tomorrow and another one the next day because it's just that good.
Shows the power of anything, whether it's a band's catalog and people can't, they argue over which is best, or songs on an album. If it's sprinkled across, it's a good sign that you're dealing with greatness. And we went through this with the Soundgarden, Chris Cornell vocals,
Yeah,
on Reddit
Yeah.
a few weeks back. But great album, great band. I don't think they've missed, which is insane. The fact that this album comes 4 or 5 albums in is crazy. They were banned for 11 years. That, I don't know, some say this was the peak, and great album.
Some say I'm that guy.
Some say. Tony says, Nate, close us out. Give us your short and sweet cliff
Short and
notes.
sweet. Like, don't make me cut this down from a minute
Short
to
and
30
sweet.
seconds.
You got 30 seconds, my friend.
All right, let's go. I think as a nerd, and as a nerd in this collective nerd bubble we have,
We're off to a
This
great
isn't
start.
going.
We're off
This
to a
is
great
not
start.
going 30 seconds.
is this exactly, is the fact that, like, for us, I always felt like we missed the boat in music that was going to be well regarded way down the line, because we love metal. Great. Am I going to play that for my grandfather, for my son, all this stuff? That's a hard play. But this record then, and now that I'm a father, I'm like, I played it. I was literally writing notes and blasting this record earlier, and he was dancing on the floor. I'm like, this is awesome, because it connects with someone that doesn't even understand music or understand what the fucking lyrical content is, doesn't understand, music theory, anything. And it's just clearly there's a connection. So for me, it gives me hope, basically. It's like, okay, life's good, music's great, and that we didn't miss the boat, and we were part of something very special, and it was then, now, and it is today. Like, that's something that I'll always hold in high regard, because we are so fortunate to be here on this planet and to be part of so many moments in life that music has basically painted a soundtrack to that. So for the mic drop, I'll just say that this record is the epitome of that. We think it's a front to back 10 out of 10 record for that exact reason, and I'll always believe that. And now that my son has basically verified that.
Time. All right, we did. All right.
So what you're trying to say is they were living in the future. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Back in time.
That's a Bruce Springsteen song, Living in the Future. All right. Thanks for listening to Podioslave. We're going to have all the fun ways that you can connect with us here coming up in just a second. We'll be back with another episode next week, because why not? We keep doing it. We love it. This is the world that we've created for ourselves, the world that you love. And yeah, we're back at it next week. Thanks, everybody.
And a full catalog back there. Check it out. Every band you love is back there. We've interviewed them or talked about them. So here's to the futures.
Here's to the futures. Cheers to the sinceres of the futures.
There you go.
Peace, podheads. Na, 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 na. Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.
It's like, fuck. Lost it.
Oh, you really struck a chord with you, man.
With yourself, yeah. Nice job. The magic
Really
of editing.
lasting impression.
This will go at the end.